This is my approach to making a large planter. I think one of the things that I really work on is pretty much using my body to put pressure on the clay to center it. I found that by really leaning into it, it's a little easier to center it. I do, as I tell my students, always try to keep my elbows on my legs. Now here I'm coning it up, pushing it back down. Coning it back up, trying to get it nice and smooth, closer to the center. And on this one, I really put my upper body weight. I want to get a nice dome that's pretty much just comes in nice and wide all the way to where it doesn't have any undercuts or anything. And right in here, I'm pretty much getting ready to open it up. When I'm opening it up, I kind of get it started. Either put some water and make sure there's some water in there. And to really push it, I use two hands. Push nice and hard, get to the right thickness. I want a little thicker base on this one, closer to 1/2 inch, so that I can come back and trim and then put a nice hole to get the water to drain. Establishing the base. I normally bring it close, if not more, to the width that the final piece is going to have when it's finished. And compressing nice and tight. In this case, I want a nice smooth base. A little bit wider here. And working, not a complete pull, but just kind of trying to bring it up a little bit more. Still compressing. And I like to use this wooden tool, nice and flat, good width, keeps me from digging in, also makes it nice and smooth. Apply good pressure on it. And going for a pull after a little cleanup. I like to use a good amount of water. I found that as long as you don't take too long, the water doesn't affect it, but does allow for everything to be, go right through your fingers without putting any tension on the clay. If you do take a long time to throw, too much water will soften up the clay eventually. So then it works against you. And for a second good pull here. Maintaining a proper speed on the wheel itself and your vertical move is important. You want to see some horizontal lines as far as the throw-in rings go. That tells you that you're pretty much applying pressure to every single part of that form. I want to get a nice strong rim. It is going to be a heavier piece than normal. I like them to be strong. They're going to be outside holding a little tree in it. So they're going to be nice and heavy as well. I do want all of them to look fairly much the same, so do some measuring here and there as far as opening goes. Using the ruler to straighten up that wall, pushing up against the steel. Removing some of the extra clay on the bottom. I found that if I clean it, it's going to be a lot easier when it comes to trimming. Looking for the proper width and finishing up the rim. Removing all the water. If you leave a little water in there, it'll soak into the clay, make it a little softer. It takes a little longer for them to dry or to get to the next stage, leather hard, so that you can trim. And double checking my measurements. And this piece is ready. I'll leave it on the bat until it firms up a little bit. Then I'll flip it over, allow it to get nice and leather hard. Then I will trim it. Stamping design is really the back end of a needle tool I have, and one of my ribs. Leaves and grapes. Trimming. Here I'm going to remove the extra clay off the bottom, cleaning up the form a little bit, getting the right angle. On the larger forms, for them to support themselves, there's always a little extra on the bottom section of the piece. I use a Giffen grip to center it, hold it in place. Rounding off the corner. And laying out the foot. I want a nice strong foot on this one. So it's about 3/4 of an inch. Then I like to start in the center. Work my way out to where I laid out my foot line. Cutting the hole. And then just soften up the inside, clean up the inside so that there's no sharp edge. This also gives me a good feel for how much clay I have there, so I'm just removing it a little bit more. Rounding off the foot itself. On something that's going to be used like this, if you leave a sharp line, a hard edge, they're more likely to chip just in moving them around. And stamping out some holes on the sides. So that if they do accumulate water, it runs out the edge. A little smoothing here. Signing it and cleaning, final cleanup. Easier to clean it now than come back later and sanding